Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be another first impressions video. And quickly, before we get this first impressions video started, I just wanted to let you guys know that we do have a Firearm Freedom merchandise store live, and that link can be found down in the description. Anything you purchase from there directly goes to support what we do here on Firearm Freedom. Any support is greatly appreciated. In today's first impressions video, we are taking a look at my very first J-frame revolver here in the Firearm Freedom collection. This one in particular is a Smith & Wesson J-frame 442-1 38 special revolver. And guys, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've wanted a little J-frame for a very long time. They hold a cool factor for me in the collection. One of the first reasons and one of the first plus sides to a small J-frame revolver and why I wanted to get one into the collection so bad is because, you guessed it, I've always had a ton of issues with small micro 380s. Now, since then, I've had a lot of good luck with the Glock 42, and that's what continues to be my go-to backup gun. But I know that pretty much no matter what, the one gun that's going to beat out a smaller micro 380 and not be anywhere near as finicky as a smaller micro 380 is going to be a small J-frame revolver like this 442 here. A nice thing is that it has really comparable overall size to something like a Glock 42 or Glock 43, and it goes extremely well in a backup roll. On top of that, now I don't generally subscribe to the whole stopping power notion, but it does give you just a little bit more oomph than a standard 380 ACP would, which is another nice factor in many different situations, and especially when you're looking at a self-defense roll. A smaller micro 380 can have some hiccups. If you don't have a full firm grip on the gun, you can get into limp wristing issues, and you can also have issues with different ammunition. So it's very important that you test whatever backup gun you're looking at using, but you can rest assured that generally speaking, the J-frame is going to come out on top as far as reliability is concerned for a small micro gun. Another huge positive when it comes to the 442 is the fact that clothing does not matter with this little gun. So I see this as a phenomenal choice as a jacket pocket gun. I know that's a little bit of a niche role, but if you think about carrying, whether it be appendix carry or strong side carry in the wintertime in the waistband, and you have a heavy jacket on, especially in colder months here in Pennsylvania, it can be very difficult to draw that jacket up and clear it to the point that you can get your gun free. And that definitely comes true when you're looking inside of a vehicle or something like that. So being able to carry a small J-frame revolver in a jacket pocket is really interesting because unlike a semi-automatic, the cylinder is not going to be impeded by any clothing. So you could actually dump all 5 rounds in that cylinder through your jacket pocket and the revolver should come out just fine. This gun also goes extremely well in an ankle carry roll. On top of that, another thing that aids in the cool factor and the positive features of this gun in a defensive roll is the fact that there are speed loaders and holsters all over the place for the J-frame series of Smith & Wesson revolvers. Now, Smith & Wesson offers a wide variety of these revolvers in this same size frame, but some with still a usable hammer back here that's shielded on both sides. And then you also have an identical model to the 442 that has the visible hammer that you can easily cock into the single action position. That didn't interest me as much because in the roll that I'm looking at this gun in, which is a backup roll or a small concealed carry option that I'm going to be keeping in a pocket, I just wanted it as streamlined as possible to be able to draw without snagging at all. I purchased this pistol used at the gun shop that I work at for a really good price. It was a little over $300, which I think is extremely acceptable for this gun. And if you're familiar with Smith & Wesson revolvers at all, you will know that each dash, whether it's a no dash or dash 1, dash 2, will signify generally the age or the style of whatever revolver you are getting. Now, there was one 442 that was earlier than the Dash 1, and that was simply just the 442. This was slightly later than that, and the Dash signifies that they went to the Magnum frame. Now, one thing that's important to note with this gun is that it does just say 38 Special on the barrel. you guys will know that newer 442s will say 38 special plus P because they are plus P rated. So it's very important that you contact Smith & Wesson first and see if your particular serial number is capable of handling plus Ps. A lot of guys online say that as soon as they went to the dash, it was a Magnum frame and you guys are good to go to run plus Ps. I don't feel comfortable with saying that just simply because there are a lot of other sides to that argument that say unless it says it on the barrel, you should not put a lot of plus Ps through it. Either way, in these small J-frame guns, you're probably not going to want to shoot much plus Ps anyways, and that's going to get into our next point, which is really one of the few downsides to this particular revolver, which is it is snappy as all hell. It's not kind of blowing your arm back recoil, but it is recoil that really wants to snap into the web of your hand, and unfortunately, guys, it is painful every time you pull the trigger on this gun. Now, you combine that very snappy recoil because of a small, lightweight gun and 38 special, which is definitely no slouch of a cartridge, and you combine that with the fact that there's really not much to hold onto in these grips. Now, obviously, you can get larger grips for this gun that give you almost a full-size feel, and that would definitely aid in shootability of this gun, but it kind of defeats the purpose of what I want to use this gun for, which is a very small, concealable revolver. So be aware that there's not a lot to hold on to, and the more you choke up on this gun, the more you feel it in the web of your hand. So there is a little bit of a sweet spot that I found was just below that little corner there, and that allowed it just enough room for the revolver to roll like it should, but not roll too much, and still allow me to get really good, fast follow-up shots. On top of that, with the J-frames, they do have somewhat of a heavier trigger pull when it comes to Smith & Wesson revolvers. You would probably be looking about 10 to 11 pounds on that double action, and obviously, being the fact that it's a revolver, the reset is going to bring it all the way back out and your double action pull again. Now, the one thing I will say with Smith & Wesson revolvers in particular, and a lot of you guys might argue with me on this one, they don't make them like they used to. And all of you Smith & Wesson fans out there, especially the Smith revolver guys, will probably agree to that. Whenever you get an older Smith & Wesson revolver, there's just something a little bit different about it. The trigger just feels a little bit better. Now, obviously, every trigger gets a little bit better with shooting, so that could be a little bit of the reason as well. But still, this 442 airweight trigger, when comparing it to other 442s that were brand new in the case, just felt worlds better, and that definitely encouraged me to get the older model rather than the newer one. Now, you will hear the term thrown around a lot, which is the pre-lock revolvers. And back in the day in the 90s, when you had the assault weapons ban and all that garbage going on, you had a push from Smith & Wesson to add a manual key lock that was right above the cylinder release. That manual key lock, when turned, would completely disengage the entire gun. The trigger, the cylinder, nothing would work, even if there was rounds in there. Now, that may seem like a good idea to some of you. It would not be a good idea in my opinion, simply because if you lose the key or you're using it for home defense and you're fiddling around with a key, that could definitely cause some issues. Aside from that, in a lot of the Magnum Smith & Wesson revolvers that had that key lock, they actually have been reported to engage with recoil, and that is a huge issue. So I would highly recommend getting the pre-lock model. Now, the newer 442s that are brand new on the market are going to have some with the lock and some without. So when you are looking in the gun shop, if you do see a different price point, it could absolutely be because one has a lock and one doesn't, and you should be aware of that. Now, this revolver, since it was used, actually did come with the super cool original Smith & Wesson box. Now, as far as I could tell, the date on this gun was somewhere in the mid to late 90s, and inside we actually still have our product registration card, which is super cool. We have a laser engraving card from Smith & Wesson, and then we also have the original manual and all of that, and then obviously all of the original parts that came with the gun, even the little safety lock that nobody uses. So for that price point of a little over 300 bucks, I just simply could not turn it down. I've been looking at one for a while, and it is just a great little revolver. Now, another downfall to choosing a small J-frame J-frame revolver for defense is the slow and tedious reload. Now, one thing I want to make extremely clear before I comment on the reload is you can absolutely get good at this reload. There's many people that carry solely revolvers, and they've gotten extremely proficient with the reload. There are many ways to reload a small J-frame revolver, and you just want to find the one that works for you. I was using the number 36 speed loader here. When I ran dry, I would kick out the cylinder with my dominant hand, and with my non-dominant left hand, I would bring my two fingers around, tilt the revolver up, pointing straight up into the air, and forcefully hit the ejection rod and kick all the spent casings downward. From there, I would take my speed loader. I would already be doing this through this process, grabbing this speed loader out of my pocket, dropping the rounds in, and even though the speed loader gets them there for you, you do have to kind of shake it around a little bit and throw it to the side. Close it back up, grab it with your strong hand, and you're back in action. Now, that's a lot of steps, that's a lot of different movements with your hands, and I don't like the fact that you are switching to your non-dominant hand and you're taking the gun completely out of a firing grip. I definitely think that it's something to note if you're looking at this for defense. I would rarely ever carry this, nor would I recommend this as a be-all, end-all, everyday concealed carry option when you have smaller semi-automatic options that are going to be just a little bit larger than this but have much more capacity and a much easier reload. But obviously this is all opinionated and a personal preference. A lot of people out there carry these and they do just fine with it. Just like everything else, you just have to practice with whatever it is that you're carrying, make sure you get good at it, and make sure that you can do it under stress in a stressful situation, and you should be just fine. One other thing that I found out that probably is going to get a lot of you guys to cringe is that this gun absolutely cannot shoot steel case ammunition. You guys know that as a reviewer, I test multiple different types of ammunition through a gun. I know many times the manual won't say that it's a good idea or it's not recommended, but I find that it is important as a reviewer to figure out exactly what this can and cannot do for you guys on the other end of the screen. Some of you guys might have been interested in 38 Special, Tula ammo, or other steel case options because of its price point. I did a little bit of reading on forums and people were saying that it should work just fine. I'm here to tell you guys, especially you in the forums, that it does not work. Don't buy it, don't do it, because it absolutely got stuck after the first cylinder. Now, obviously, the rounds fired just fine, but when I went to eject the rounds, I just had a little bit of a click and nothing would happen. And it was to the point where I had to actually grab with a Leatherman tool, and it was all nasty and kind of some Slavic style of gunsmithing at the range, and I ultimately ended up taking a rusty screw that I found on the range floor because you never have a cleaning rod when you need it, and ultimately I had to put that screw in the other end of the cylinder and push each round out. So steel case ammunition, at least when it comes to the 442, is absolutely not recommended. I would highly recommend only running brass case ammunition. With the rounds fired, I had absolutely no issues, and actually by the end of the day, I was connecting fairly easily at about 10 yards. One thing when it comes to grip of this revolver and shooting is there's a lot of different grips that people have out there. Ultimately, at the range day, I found that the one that worked best for me was actually grabbing and wrapping my thumb with my strong hand. With my non-dominant hand, I would actually come in and press on this little shelf here by the cylinder. Now, I didn't have any issues with heat or anything like that, and it's a little hard to show on camera, but my hands ended up looking like a cross like that. And I found that that was the best grip for me to help reduce recoil and also make it a little bit easier to land shots on target. Now, keep in mind that obviously, depending on the size of the revolver or the type of revolver, this may not work, but for me, it worked out pretty well. That's pretty much gonna wrap this video up, guys. If you have any other questions about this 442-1 or anything else on the channel, feel free to put them down below in the comments section, and you guys know I absolutely will get back to you. Down in that description, we have a link to the brand new B channel, FF Lifestyle, that you're definitely going to want to check out if you enjoy more vlog style content. On top of that, we have links to our Firearm Freedom Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram account that you guys can follow, and we do daily posts on all three of those that you're not going to want to miss out on. If you guys enjoy the content here on the Firearm Freedom YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss out on any of the content that we post every single month. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more great videos to come soon.